Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this week's edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and boy, am I excited about this week's show and who I get to share with you. Got three guys that I think you're really going to enjoy. Starting with the confidence doctor, Dr. Bob Winters. You guys know Doc joins me every month, and he always delivers some nuggets of wisdom for how we can think differently and play better out there on the golf course, and this time around is no different. On the back of Tommy Fleetwood recently losing a two-stroke lead with 3 holes to play at the Travelers Championship, the subject of choking has been out there online and on social media. Well, Dr. Bob talks with us about what choking is, but more importantly, what it isn't. I think you're really going to enjoy his insights on that topic. You'll also hear about the amazing number of junior players that he's working with that are out there bringing home the hardware. Look, if your son, daughter, neighbor, nephew, niece, whoever is looking to get to the next level with their games, be sure to reach out to Dr. Bob. He is having an amazingly positive impact on so many junior players. He's going to do a world of good for your junior players. We talk more about why that is this week here on the show on this segment with Doc. So reach out to him. Again, theconfidencedoctor.com is where you're going to find him online. Following him, my assistant captain, Darren Pang, is back. One of the many great parts of summertime is getting to catch up with Panger following the Stanley Cup Finals. Look, Darren is the best part of any broadcast that he is a part of. Dan Quinn talked about that when he joined me a few weeks back. This time around, Panger talks about what it's going to take for some team to overtake the now back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. We look ahead to next February's Olympic hockey tournament, one of my favorites. I love Olympic ice hockey. Then we get into some golf talk and hear about his Miura golf clubs. Darren has been a club ambassador for Miura for many years. He's talked about it on the show several times. He describes for us what sets them apart from other club manufacturers. Panger also talks about why Royal County Down is his all-time favorite golf course. He shares memories of being at the 1997 Open at Royal Troon. Plus, he takes us inside his home course, Prestwick Village Golf Club up in Michigan, and onto his backyard where he's got an amazing putting green from Celebrity Greens. He'll talk about that as well. Panger is just one of my favorite people. He's just so wonderfully positive and a great guest and a great storyteller. I think you're going to enjoy his segment as well. Then in part 2, the CEO of John Doe Sport, Morny Botha, makes his Next on the Tee debut. Now, John Doe Sport is the premier sunglass company out on the market. Ernie Els was so impressed when he tried a pair on, he immediately wanted to buy into the company. Ernie never wore sunglasses on the golf course until he started wearing John Doe's, and you're going to hear why. And John Doe Sports technology is going to help us read greens more effectively and become more efficient and consistent putters. Folks, this isn't a sales pitch. They don't sponsor the show, nor is it a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. You're going to hear the science behind all of this. And Morny isn't a pitch guy, by the way. He's a PGA professional from South America. Now, he is CEO of the company. But we start off getting into his background into the game, running golf courses over there. Why he and Ernie bought into John Doe Sport from a science and technology standpoint. So, look, if you're looking for a sneaky advantage to have over your buddies when you're out there playing, give these sunglasses a try. While the rest of your foursome continues to wear those cheap sunglasses that they get at the drugstores, you're going to be striking the ball better, making more putts while they're chunking it in 3-putting. I think you're really going to be impressed with what Morny has to say. So, folks, a lot of great stories and insights coming your way this week, as always, here on Next on the Tee. And like I say each and every week, thank you so much for pressing play, tuning in, and taking the journey with me. Okay, but before we get into this week's show, I want to start off by giving a shout out to our good friends over at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. TribLive.com is the leading news website for Western Pennsylvania with news around the clock. Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, a podcast network, which you can find Next on the Tee on. So go out and bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with all the news in Western Pennsylvania and this show. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Iron City beer, best enjoyed while enjoying life. And folks, this year, get ready to experience the game like you've never experienced it before at the Keep. It's the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course up at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are even more spectacular in person than they are in the pictures and the videos. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round there is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore this year. The Keep is open for preview play and it's waiting for you. But you gotta hurry now because spots and availability are filling up fast. So don't wait. Check out both courses, the Highlands and the Keep, for yourself online at themacklemore.com. And then do yourself and your buddies, or yourself and your family a solid by getting your spot reserved now. And experience distance and forgiveness all at once with the new QI35 driver from TaylorMade. QI35 is designed to give golfers more distance from more of the face while maintaining maximized forgiveness through high MOI designs. Whether you're looking for low spin and maximum workability or easy launch and plenty of adjustability, it's available in low spin, core, and max models. QI35 also has a full assortment of fairway woods and rescues to deliver distance and forgiveness throughout the top end of your bag. Check them all out online at TaylorMadeGolf.com. All right, now back in Next on the Tee with me is the Confidence Doctor, Dr. Bob Winters. Doc has been a wonderful part of the show for the last 19 months now, and I am very humbled to tell you that number and so grateful to him for all those times. As you know, he joins me the first part of every month to help us think differently, develop confidence, and play smarter. You can find him down in Orlando at his Performance Enhancement Company or over at the Ledbetter Golf Academy at the Reunion Resort. He's doing great work with players ranging from junior golfers all the way up to professional players on both tours. In fact, Doc is one of the early pioneers who developed the mental training for junior players. He is also a board member of the Next Tour, which is a feeder tour for the Epson and LPGA tours. And I couldn't be more excited. He is back with me again this month here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Dr. Bob, how are you, my friend?
Chris, I can't believe that half of the year has already gone by.
Right?
And here we are, really right in sort of the throngs of a hot summer. And, there's a lot of great golf going on right now and a lot of great individual and team competition going on and getting ready for the Open over at Portrush. So, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff going on. How have you been, Chris?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Dr. Bob.
All right. It's always awesome to be with you and Next on the Tee. I'm always honored to be, part of the show.
Same here to have you. All right, so let's get into this month, and we certainly have a lot to talk about. I want to start out by talking about choking because Tommy Fleetwood, he lost a 2-stroke lead with 3 holes to play a few weeks back at the Travelers Championship. People have looked at him as perhaps choking that tournament away, perhaps the weight of having never won here on American soil. Maybe that was too much for him. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And to you, what is choking? And maybe more importantly, what isn't it?
Wow, that's a great place, to start, today's show. But let's just talk about choking from a scientific viewpoint. I mean, it's been defined by, great researchers, Bylock and Carr, way back in the early 2000s, but choking's been going on for a lot longer than that. But they talk about that it's performing, much more poorly than one would expect on one skill level. So really, when I look at choking, it's suboptimal performance, and it's much, much different than one that you would normally expect in one's regular, what we call participation level. So when we start talking about somebody choking, someone is really, I mean, it's grievous errors. I mean, it's errors that you see it, you feel it, you understand it. And when a player chokes, maybe they felt really confident at one point, and then when they start choking, they start feeling great anxiety, great internal pressure, whether it's, self-induced or other induced, or it's their value, that perceived value of the situation. Things just get out of hand. And what happens? A player starts to over control, over manipulate, over try, over want. And when you have a bad case of the overs, it creates so much tension, so much self-doubt that really what happens, the entire motor performance is really, it's not there anymore. What was once very flowing, very fluid, very easy and trusting now becomes very forced, very filled with triosity, very careful, not trying to mess up, over manipulation and steering. And it's just the opposite of trust. Because when we talk about trusting is the letting go of that conscious over controlling, over manipulation thing. And what happens when we really trust? I mean, trust is a non-issue. We're not even thinking about the outcome or the results, but that's really what choking is. Choking, people have this huge expectation of how things, want to be or should be. And then, when things go askew, they start to become very nervous, very self-aware, and very over-controlling. So that's really what choking is from a very scientific viewpoint. Now, I really want to actually make a difference between what choking is and what being unfamiliar is. When a person is in a novel or new situation, or maybe a situation they haven't been in a long time, now they are in this context, they are in this bubble, and they are being socially and even personally evaluated. And what happens is that if they are a little bit uncomfortable, they play not as well as probably what they anticipate or what they should. And sometimes they sort of fumble the ball. They don't play as well. And it isn't so much choking just due to anxiety and they're overwhelmed. They're just confused and they just are unfamiliar with that situation. So that's the first time. So when a person, faces something new for the first time, you really don't know how you're going to handle it. But I think for so many people who are armchair quarterbacks, commentators, and people on the sidelines, it's really easy to throw that C word around. I mean, the big choke. Well, they just choked. Well, maybe they didn't choke. Maybe, they were just unfamiliar, hadn't been in that situation ever, or they hadn't been there for a long time. Now we start talking about Tommy Fleetwood. Did Tommy Fleetwood really choke? For me, I don't really believe that he did. And I'd be the first one to go up to him and say, I don't believe that. I think you're one hell of a player. The guy has won, so much. He is right there on that bubble of what we call having the monkey on his back, being a player who's finished in the top 5, top 10 more than anybody in the last 40 years who hasn't won a PGA title. But he has come away with a silver medal at the Olympics. He has, been part of the Ryder Cup teams, a star player there. He's won 7 times on the World Tour, DP Tour. So he knows how to win. But I think in his own admission, Chris, is that even before he played that final round, he had a fantastic, 63 in the third round. But I want to talk about that third round because that third round versus the fourth round, there's a lot of difference there. That third round, and Tommy does this a lot, he plays these great rounds when almost no one really expects anybody to play that well. But if you think a third round, he hit 14 out of 14 fairways. He hit 15 out of 18 greens. He had about 160 feet of putts that he made. He made about a 66-foot putt, made a couple of 30-footers. So he really had everything going, that day. And now when he steps up to the first tee and he's playing up there in Keegan Bradley country, playing at TPC River Highlands up there in Connecticut, and that's New England, territory. And here is, the USA Ryder Cup captain, and he's got people chanting USA, USA, and here's Tommy being part of that European, winning squad. So it becomes almost adversarial. It becomes almost like a Ryder Cup match play. And I had, a couple of people tell me that they were people shouting at Tommy, going, "Well, Tommy, it's now or never." And so when you've got, that sort of context, that sort of situation, I'll tell you what, now this is a different, kettle of fish than just going out there and trying to play some golf. So he didn't get off to the very best start. And people say, well, what was he doing? Because his putting has really been sort of one of his Achilles heel. But I think he even talked with Butch Harmon, and they talked about, don't go in this final round and let's not really putt defensively. Let's putt, with assured confidence. And I saw him putt, he had about a 10-footer for par on the first hole because he got in a little bit of trouble off the tee. He hit a really, really good putt. The second hole, he makes like a 4-footer, plays the hole great. And so he rebounds very well, Chris. But also at the same time, on that first hole, Russell Henley makes about a 20-footer for birdie on the first hole. On the second hole, before Tommy makes his, Keegan Bradley makes about a 17-footer for birdie. So he's looking around and all these people are making putts. And that really happened all day, to Tommy. So it was back and forth. He was, leading it. And if you think about it, when we came to the ninth hole, Keegan Bradley steps up there and he makes a 64-footer on, the ninth hole, to make a birdie. Now he gets, right up there, very, very close. But if you look at that, tournament, Chris, everyone was in the hunt. Scotty Scheffler was making a run on the back. Harris English was making a run. Russell Henley was playing very, very well. And Tommy and Keegan were going back and forth. But I want to say this also about Keegan Bradley. He is one hell of a competitor. Kudos to him. Congratulations. A great victory for him. But also at the same time, Keegan Bradley made 168 feet of total putts. He made a 64-footer, a 37-footer, a couple of 16-footers, and a bunch, 6 and 7-footers. And I tell you what, when you've got, somebody making that many putts, well, I tell you what, now that's something, to actually sort of, you look at it and you try to actually block it out and stay in your lane. But almost on every tee box coming down that stretch, and TPC River Highlands, let's give it all, the credit's due. That place is just made for drama. It is made for, for great finishes. I remember, Jordan Spieth, knocking one in on the final hole there on the 18. But when they talk about, Tommy Fleetwood choking, if I thought Tommy Fleetwood was going to choke, when he was on the 17th green, he hits a great shot from the bunker across the water onto the green. He now has a 30-footer, and he hits it, and that ball goes about 6 or 7 feet by. And I'm sure you saw that as well, Chris. But if he was going to have any type of choke, that would have been the time. But he actually almost let that putt get away from him, but he sank the next putt, and it was center cut into the hole. Now, as they step to the 18th tee, and I really want to set this up, Keegan Bradley steps up there. Now he's got his positive momentum going, got the crowd with him. They're shouting, Keegan, Keegan, USA, USA. He's all pumped up. He slams one right down the right middle of the fairway. Just a perfect tee ball. Tommy Fleetwood gets up there. He has to actually match that. He knocks it down the left middle. Now, I think Tommy is about 7 yards away. Now, this is really where it kind of gets into, what I call maybe a little bit of over control, overthinking. Maybe this is really where a lot of people think that he choked. He was going back and forth between, hitting a hard pitching wedge or maybe going to a 9-iron. He and his caddy were having, a nice conversation, a little bit too deliberate, perhaps, about how the wind was going to affect the ball. Perhaps, they overthought it, overanalyzed it. And maybe, you've got to, at that time, you've got to go with your gut instinct and say, this is, the shot I'm going to commit to. I felt that Tommy Fleetwood stepped in. He hit the pitching wedge, felt like he hit it well, and it came up a little bit short. And I think, if I watched the ball tracker, it looked like it hit, that ball, and the wind got it and knocked it down in front. Then Keegan Bradley, to his credit, steps up there and hits a phenomenal shot, 6 feet, underneath, the hole. Perfect placement, perfect lead. Now, at the same time, before Tommy even has a chance to go up and putt or chip from his position, Russell Henley over in the other part of the green chips his in to go from 13 under to 14 under. So now the crowd is just bedlam. And now it's Tommy's turn to step up there and putt. And I happen to believe, that when you are in that situation, and this is really what I don't think a lot of people understand, one of the toughest things to do in golf, and we hear it a lot, it's almost a cliche, is to be able to get the ball close or to putt when you are far away in order to seal the deal. So Tommy, who had just actually hit a putt, maybe with a little bit over aroused on the 17th hole, I think maybe he actually did, sort of a realization, hey, let's not, slam this ball by the hole. He hits it and it comes up, a little bit short, but it's about 6 inches outside Keegan Bradley's line. Now, I don't know if you saw that putt. I saw it over and over and over again because I've been talking about it. I think Tommy, Fleetwood hit a good putt. A lot of people say that he swiped it, but no, when he was actually talking with Rich Lerner and Brandel Chambly later, they were watching it on slow motion. His putt, about a foot, 2 foot from the hole, actually pops up. It looks like it hit maybe a little pebble or maybe some imperfection in the grass and slid to the right. Keegan Bradley saw that, but Keegan Bradley stuck to his instinct. He said, I don't really think it breaks that much, but I'm going to go ahead and hit mine fairly firm. And he actually hits it, and you see that ball moving from the left edge to the middle of the hole. Keegan Bradley comes, makes birdie. Tommy Fleetwood, walks away. So when people ask me, wow, did he choke? I don't think Tommy Fleetwood choked. I mean, I thought he hit too many good shots under pressure in the context of a very, very nervy situation. And I thought he held up very well. But did he win the tournament? He didn't win. But I didn't think he really lost it either. I think he did a very, very good job. So that's, my viewpoint. But, he said, I haven't been in this position for a long, long time. So I think I give him, sort of a pass on, the C word here this time. But he's just too good of a player. I really do believe that he will win. And I think this is one of those times where you don't define it as failure, but you use that information, you refine your mindset, you refine your skill set, and the next time you're in that situation, you'll handle it, better, perhaps a little bit differently. And if that isn't, we used to talk about Rory McIlroy. When was Rory going to win? When is he going to get the monkey off his back? Well, Rory went 10 years, and let's face it, Rory in the Masters, I think he choked about 5 or 6 times. I mean, really choked.
Yeah.
But he also became clutch. And I want to talk about that. Being clutch means performing at a very high level during a situation or event that is filled with, what we call personally, critically felt feelings about that performance. And it's just a great thing when a player rises above, what everyone expects of them, and they just play at a different level. And that's really what this game of golf is all about. It makes great theater. So I just hope everybody, doesn't start throwing around that choke word, because we do that a lot at clubs. When a player, has played great all day and he's gotten a position to win his club championship and he just hasn't ever been there before, and he kind of flubs it a little bit. He doesn't play bad, and it isn't really bad shots. He just doesn't, close the deal. Well, you could say that's, choking, but I only say it's choking if you've been in that situation several times before and you don't close the deal. You haven't learned anything from those previous failings. So that's why I say, when somebody does it for the first time, they're unfamiliar with, how they're going to deal with it. So, that's really my viewpoint here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on this diatribe about that.
No,
but I just thought
love
it was fantastic, viewing theater. I think it's great, from a psychological, physiological approach to see different people. And that's why we're always telling people, listen, that's what, your whole routine, your whole one-shot process is all about, is that it sort of insulates you from all of this external chubba lubba that is just pounding you. And if you could actually keep things very simple and keep it about the task, keep it about the target, and just give yourself permission to execute the way you know you can, most of the time, you come through pretty good. But even if you actually hit the shot a little bit, you're still, getting through the doubt, getting through the worry, getting through the fear. And to me, that is a victory, that's a victory in itself. When you can get through that fear, when you can get through that almost that self-imposed pressure, and you can say, you know what, not this time. I'm going to do it this time. And I always love, the great choreographers and the great performers when they say, hey, don't think, just do. And that's why I think Nike, had that, 3-word slogan, just do it. Because there comes a time when you have to think the shot through, then you've got to give yourself permission to step in and then just do it. And then at the end, you have to accept it and move on. And I will say this about Tommy Fleetwood. He was very gracious and, in his words to Keegan Bradley, showed what a great sportsman he was. And he said, this is going to hurt. This is going to leave a mark, but he will learn from it. But he also said something I think everyone needs to kind of pay attention to. He said, I did way too many things, this week and today for me to actually beat myself up about it. He goes, yeah, it'll sting for a while, but I'll pull the good out of it and I'll be better for it. And I think that's the lesson that, as a sports psychologist, that's the lesson I want everybody to hear.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with all of that, Doc. I want to kind of take one off to the side here, one more note on this, because to your point about all the putts that Keegan made along the way to get himself into that position, a lot of times the media wants to focus on the negative. We want to focus on the person who lost, the guy who lost, the girl who lost, the team that lost, and why they lost, instead of on the opposite side of that coin, taking the positive spin on it and say, this is the team and how they won it. Here's the player and how they won it. To me, that is the story. It's not that Tommy choked this thing away. It's what Keegan did to win it. I think we got to focus more on the winning side and what teams and players have done to put themselves in the position to win and then gone on and won it and took it, right? I think that's at the end. What did Keegan do? All those feet of putts that he made in order to put himself into that position. The putt he made on 18, the shot, as you mentioned, the shot he made on 18 to put himself in an opportunity, to put himself in position to win it. I think we got to focus more on those things and the winning side than try to figure out how or why somebody or why a team lost it.
Yeah, I think everybody can throw the red flag of BS, easily onto the field, right? But, let's talk about Keegan Bradley, because that victory, I think this was what we call a revenge. And revenge is best served, on what we call a cold dish, or a dish that is cold. I think, this is something he's been waiting a couple of years to actually get back, because, when he was really should have been, I thought, should have been picked to be on, the Ryder Cup team a couple of years ago. And I'm sure that hurt, because he's won here before. This is kind of like his home turf, up here in New England and TPC, River Highlands. He loves that golf course. And to do it in front of people. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's a home course advantage. He had the crowd going for him. I'm going to look at the other side. Sometimes, there's no greater burden, than to have a home team, the home support, everyone saying, yeah, you're going to do it. Yeah, you've done it before. But, in truth, it's a huge burden. And you've got to take all of the great expectations, all of the wonderful things that you want to do to please people and try to impress people and bring it home for the home crowd. You've got to put that away. And you've still got to go out and execute. And I got to tell you, this is really the guttiness of a Keegan Bradley. This guy, he wanted it. And you could see that. And I saw, I think, on the putt on 15, where he makes, that bomb from 37 feet. And he just kept coming and kept coming. And that's part, of his personality. He really is, a great competitor. And I think, whether he, is the playing captain or he is just, the team captain, and really he's got a kind of a decision to make because we haven't really had anybody in this position since I think Arnold Palmer
Right.
about 45 years ago. So it's going to be interesting, debate because the Ryder Cup is just so much. It's become so much bigger than, really what, anyone almost envisioned it to be. But it is really, something. And to be up there in New England, to be at Bethpage, to be, in the town where, that Keegan Bradley, graduated from, St. John's. Yeah, I think, you've got a lot of, going to have a lot of USA up there. But somebody asked me that. They said, "Do you think the USA has an advantage here?" And I go, "Well, they do have a lot of advantages here, and always the home team does. But the one thing that we know from the sports psychology research is that whenever teams and individuals come and play in a hostile environment, sometimes that hostile environment elevates their level of being able to execute, and they feel like their backs to the wall. So that's another thing that people have to, kind of, understand is that everyone loves, that crowd. Everybody used to hate, the Yankees. Okay. Everybody used to hate the Yankees or it
Still
was
do.
like, yeah. And yeah, exactly. Well, especially you Steeler fans, but I mean, and football teams,
Yep.
football teams, everybody, baseball, football, whatever. But I remember, growing up, in the state of Indiana, Notre Dame, everybody who played Notre Dame, I don't care if you actually, uh, just if you were 3-6, but if you actually beat Notre Dame, during that season, you had a successful football season. I mean, that's how strong they were. And I think that's the whole point is that here we are, we're coming into, if you're the European team, they're coming in here to the United States. They're coming into Bethpage, Bethpage Black. I mean, it is, a hell of a golf course. You're going to have an unbelievable, crowd. It's going to be a fever pitch. And I got to tell you, everybody understands this is what the Ryder Cup is all about. It's the best of the best facing each other, mano a mano, team versus team, and who is going to actually handle all of this pressure, handle all of this psychological chubba and get down to business and play golf and really let their talent come out. And that's really, what I'm always, really interested in. Who is going to actually be the very best golfer at this moment, at this time? Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me, don't think, just do, right?
There you go. Doc, let's switch gears a little bit because your junior players continue to rack up wins and honors. You've got several players that are out there vying for the Florida State Junior Championship title, both on the boys and the girls side. Talk about the players that you have competing there and how well they're doing.
They are playing and they are just finishing up, and they've just finished the 54-hole Florida State Golf Association Junior Championship. And this is the first year that both the boys and the girls championship was held at the same location. It was held at Streamsong Golf Course on the blue and the black courses. Unbelievable, facility, Streamsong. They have the red, the blue, the black. It's a fantastic facility. And the listeners haven't ever been there. It's just it is a destination golf course to go to. Beautiful golf course. And I give kudos now to Anna Boone from Davenport, Florida, from Champions Gate. She ended up, winning today. This is like her third victory in a row. And I'm so proud of Anna. I had a chance to, work with her dad, Aaron, for several years. I've had a chance, talk with her. And she's just been on a tear this summer. She's having what we call an epic summer. And I think she shot, scores of like 73, 67, 69, and she won by one shot. So, I mean, those are some really, really good scores. And I had, three players who finished in the runner-up position. I had Sean Koltoff, who's going to be a first year at Florida State, this coming fall. I had William Lyle. He was there. He's going to be I think, just a 15-year-old. He's down from Bradenton, Florida, and he's there at the IMG Academy, and I work with William, and he was runner-up, along with Cameron Baez, who will also be a first year at USC Aiken. So they all were shooting 67, 65, 66, and they all lost by one shot. And I mean, they all finished tied for second. But I also want to, recognize a player, Jake Valentine, who was like in 50th place or 51st place. And Jake went out. We had a nice conversation last night. And I said, listen, I said, you've had food poisoning the first 2 days. You're
Oh,
feeling a little bit better right now. I said, you've gutted it through. I said, listen, I said, you know, you're ready to go. I said, but you feel like you've been playing, but you've been under the weather. I said, beware of the injured or beware of the sick golfer. I think that's what Sam Snead and Ben Hogan said years ago. Beware of the injured golfer, beware of the sick golfer. And he did that today, and he went out and shot an 8 under 64 today. And
wow.
I think he moved up 33 spots. I think he's like, maybe even more. I think he tied for 14th. So I mean, that's a huge thing. So, but I've been around junior golf for a long, long time. And I remember, Chris, years ago, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. Uh, I was, talking, to young players, coming out of high school, going to play amateur events, getting ready to go to college, and helping, different college teams and helping players make that transition from high school to college golf and then on. And I remember being out on tour, and following a lot of my players out in the mid 80s to the late 80s, early 90s, all the way through the 90s. And I remember I had a guy come up to me and he goes, "Who do you work with out here?" And I was telling him I had a number of players. He goes, "Well, I only work with the best of the best. I'm an elite coach." And I looked at him and he goes, "Well, really?" And he asked who I worked with. I said, "Well, I work with everybody. I work, with juniors, I work with college players, the developing young tour players, and, the great players, players to be number one in the world." He goes, "No, I'm just not going to spend any time, with the juniors." He goes, I'm going to be right here at the top. And he said, "I'm going to work with the top 1%." And I walked away from him, Chris, thinking, all right, you're going to deal with the 1%, but I'll tell you what, I want to deal with the 99%. I want to deal with everybody else. If you want to take the 1%, you go ahead and you can have that. But I want the 99% because what I've found over the years when I help, develop and coach, the Nike junior golf programs all across the country, I started introducing the mental game into our golf skill foundation, our physical skills. And the junior golfers loved that. They loved, understanding what it meant to play the game, what it meant to really work hard and really develop physical skills, but at the same time develop mental and emotional skills that would help them keep their composure, that would help them understand what it means to really save a shot versus wasting shots. And so I've been doing that for a long time, and I've been very fortunate to have so many of these junior players that I've worked with just keep graduating. You talk about the feeder program, like we have these young ladies now. They're going from junior golf to, amateur golf to top college golf, and they're going up into these different tours. We have the Next Tour, which is an unbelievable feeder tour for the Epson Tour and the LPGA Tour. And these young ladies, I remember years ago, the LPGA logo would say, "These girls can really play." And I got to tell you, they really can. Because you see, some of these, cutie patooties out there who are 13, 14, 15, taking their driver and busting that driver 250, 260, 270. You're sitting there going, wow, she must only weigh 105 pounds. And they are just ripping that ball out there and they're shooting low scores. But, a big part of it is that they now have a mental, emotional, even a visceral foundation that says, this is what's important. I've created a directed mind and I'm helping myself, play the very best golf that I can. So it's been unbelievably rewarding. But as we know, I've been doing this for a long time. And I think, and I really do believe this, I think it's, the fountain of youth is really just being around them. Really, I think it's one of the things that's
Keeps you
helped me
young.
understand. Yeah, it keeps me young. It's the fountain of youth. I mean, I tell you what, before I even knew about social media, I had all my junior players helping me. They go, Dr. Winters, here's how you do this. This is AI. This is what you do. Here's how you actually, make yourself, look a little bit better in the photos. So it's pretty funny, because and they really help you. They really do, keep you young. So I've been really blessed in that way, Chris.
Doc, just a couple more before I let you go, and I want to stick with some of your junior players because you've got another young man, Jackson Halsey. He was recently named NACC Men's Golf Athlete of the Year. Tremendous honor for that young man. Talk about him.
Well, Jackson Halsey, comes, from outside Chicago, and I started working with him about 3.5, 4 years ago. And he had great passion, great desire, and he went to another university, and he said, "Listen, I think I could do a little bit better, have more playing time at another school." And so he put himself, on the portal and was now then traded, and he actually transferred to Aurora University, and he's just set all sorts of different records up there and really having a great time. Just an excellent young man in Jackson Halsey. I've got another player here in town who comes, right here from Orlando, Carson Baez, plays for the University of Richmond. He just finished runner-up in the Southeastern Amateur here a couple weeks ago. He was like the freshman, of the year, the Spidey newcomer athlete of the year for the University of Richmond Spiders. Both of these young men, I've just been so blessed to have such great people, great families, great moms and dads, to have, great kids that I've had the chance to work with and help mold and help groom them, into becoming, great sports people and tough competitors. Because I always tell them, I said, when we start working, my philosophy for each one of you is that when you go out to go play, I want you to absolutely win 2 championships before we even hit, the ground. And I got this years ago, and I will give him all the credit in the world to the late, great Jim Flick. And Jim and I were talking many years ago, and he was talking about having the great mindset, but having a great attitude and becoming a great competitor. So I always tell, my kids, my philosophy is that whenever you go play in a tournament, I want you to be able to say to yourself, look in the mirror, that you can play anywhere, anytime, with anybody, under any conditions, and feel like you can compete because you are the very best competitor there and you have the best attitude. And I think that's really, what I'm trying to instill in all these young people. And I think it just carries over into every level, every aspect of their life. So really what I'm teaching, I don't think it's just golf skills, Chris. I think it's everything you can do in life. I think they're very basic confidence building life skills. And I think that's what Dr. Bob Winters is all about.
There you go. One more I want to get your thought on, Doc, because being here in Georgia, you've got one of your students that's going to transfer up here to UGA, Caroline Tuttle. Tell everybody about her.
King Tut, Caroline Tuttle. I tell you what, here's just a great player, big smile, big time game. And she had been, at the University of Florida, but she got hurt, I think, during her sophomore season. So that put her back, pretty much a year. But she's graduated from the University of Florida. And now she's going to go play for the Dogs. And I think she has one more year of eligibility. And she's going to be doing, a master's program up there at Georgia. So Caroline Tuttle, King Tut is what I call her. She's going to go and she's going to make an instant impact, on, the Dogs, this year. So let's look out for those Dogs, the University of Georgia Bulldogs with Caroline Tuttle. And I think she's just going to be a great addition to the team. And I just think that, what they're doing up there with Georgia, University of Georgia and their team, the women's team, I think is going to be, fantastic this year. So I love it, because she's going to be up there, playing for the University of Georgia Bulldogs. And I work, with Coach Ket Vanderpool with the Georgia State Panthers. So, we've got some people up there in Georgia that I'm working with now. We got the Georgia State Panthers. We've got University of Georgia Bulldogs, and I talked to Chris Mascaro, outside, I mean, I've got you, I've got a bunch of people here I'm talking with, so it's all good.
That's
All
fantastic.
good.
Doc, for the people that are listening and say, I've got to get my son or daughter involved with working with Dr. Bob Winters, remind them how they can reach out to you, get some more information, work with you, and then also follow you online and on social media.
They can all go to my website, and that is theconfidencedoctor.com. That's all one word, theconfidencedoctor.com. And you can actually, find me there. You can find me at the David Ledbetter Golf Academy, davidledbetter.com. You can also look me up on Google. You can look me up on Instagram and Facebook under Dr. Bob Winters or Dr. Robert Winters. There are a lot of ways you can get a hold of me, and I'm always, always interested to help people who want to get motivated and find out how good they can be in this great game.
That's awesome. Doc, you're the best, my friend. I can't thank you enough for coming back and sharing more of your stories and insights with us again this month. I'm already excited about what you're going to share with us once we turn the page to August. You're just the best, my friend. Thank you so much
Chris,
for being here.
And let me tell you somebody, you are the one person in all of all these podcasts that I talk with that never ever chokes. You always come through big. You are really what we call the serious clutch performer, pal. So keep being clutch, Chris.
I appreciate you, Doc.
All
Take
right,
care,
have
my
a good
friend.
one.
All the best to you and your family. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great evening.
Thanks. You too, Doc.
Bye.
That is the great Dr. Bob Winters, folks. And I tell you what, if you are not sold on Dr. Bob to this point, I don't know what to say to you, folks. I mean, what a tremendous individual, first and foremost, that Dr. Bob Winters. And again, you can find him online at theconfidencedoctor.com or on social media at Dr. Bob Winters or at Dr. Robert Winters. But this is a gentleman that is taking young junior players and turning them into winners. This is also a guy, let's not forget, he's a heck of a player too, folks. Remember, we've heard stories about him playing out on tour, playing alongside Mr. Palmer and players of that nature. So he knows a thing or two about the golf swing too, so he can marry both of those together for you. But this is an individual that if you are seeking to take your game to its highest level, you've got to work with Dr. Bob. He is a guy that can also work with us. It's not just the A players. You heard him talk about that earlier in the conversation. He isn't looking at only the 1%ers. He's looking at all of us. You want to win your club championship? Work with Dr. Bob. He can get you there too. So he is a tremendous individual, a tremendous mental coach that can help all of us get to the next level in our games. Again, theconfidencedoctor.com, at Dr. Bob Winters on social media. He's already got me excited about what we can talk about as we look ahead to the month of August. Coming up next is one of the all-time great hockey broadcasters and people that you'll meet in this life. A guy who's just so wonderfully positive. I can't say enough great things about Darren Pang. I love Panger. Before I bring him into the show, though, I want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point Golf Ball Marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only three-dimensional ball marker out there, with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an on-point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. Okay, now back and next on the tee with me is former Chicago Blackhawks goalie and now one of the best broadcasters in any sport, let alone hockey, Darren Pang. Let me remind you a little bit about Panger's background. He played youth hockey alongside Red Wings Hall of Famer Steve Yzerman and a guy who's a great friend of the show, Dan Quinn. When Dan joined me just a few weeks ago, you heard him talking about the great job that Darren does analyzing and broadcasting games, and he was spot on. Couldn't agree more. Darren was the first goalie drafted by the expansion Belleville Bulls of the Ontario Hockey League. In 1984, he helped the Ottawa 67s win the OHL's Memorial Cup, and he was named top goalie and to the All-Star team. He was signed as a free agent by the Blackhawks later that season, got called up late in the 84 season, and was a full-timer for the Blackhawks in 1987. He got his first win that year in October against the Winnipeg Jets. He set the Blackhawks goalie record with 6 assists that season. He played in the league until 1990, and you've heard Darren as a part of the broadcast teams for the then Phoenix Coyotes, the St. Louis Blues, and like I say, now the Blackhawks. You've also heard him at the Winter Olympic Games doing a job that made each and every one of those games infinitely better, dating back to the Nagano Games in 1998. Prayers up that we're going to hear here in just a minute that he is going to be doing the games this next February in Italy. And I couldn't be more honored I get to have him back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Panger, how are you, my friend?
Well, I am fantastic. And that is I probably, I'll Venmo you some cash with that wonderful introduction. And thank you for mentioning my good buddy, Danny. Quinter and I played together when we were probably 7 years old. And then we left each other at the age of 12 or 13 and then rejoined each other at the age of 16 or 17. So, I mean, we go a long way. And to this day, we always stay in touch. And we're going to play in a golf outing. It's a pro hockey outing in Mississippi coming up in late August. So, whole bunch of really good players, man. Joe Pavelski's and the Bernie Nichols and Danny. And I know the list goes on, but it's going to be a fun event. So, but thank you for that, Chris. I'm glad to be back on your show again. I always enjoy the time and always enjoy what you send out on social media. You're always so kind to everybody.
No, I appreciate that very much. So, Peggy, I know we got you fresh off the golf course. How'd it go today?
You know what? It went well. We had a little 5-man wheel and got the short end of that straw, that 2 against the other 2, and had some good moments and had some bad moments. I think I shot 76. I played a club here in Highland, Michigan. In the summertime, I'm at a little place called Duck Lake in Highland, Michigan, and my club that I play at is called Prestwick Village Golf Club, and it's only about 3 miles away. So it's been unbelievable to get away from the city of Chicago or in St. Louis and come to the lake. And I chip and putt here on the back of the lake and go out to the club. And the neat thing about Prestwick Village, because you're all big golf fans, so anybody that's been in this area, it's off Route 59 in Highland Township, just north of Milford. And Prestwick Village has got 25 acres of practice facility. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's the second largest practice facility acreage-wise in all of Michigan. So it's really cool. It's like a horseshoe. You can go against the wind. You can go short game areas. You can chip. You can hit long balls. You can go into the wind, side wind. So it's really a great facility. I'm really, really lucky to have it so close to where I am.
So let's take that a step further, Darren, because I believe the course hosted the Michigan Open back in 2017. When I was taking a look at the golf course, the par 5s looked pretty treacherous to me. Talk about the golf setup, the course itself that you get to play all the time.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I think the Michigan Open was there for 5 straight years. And I've been a member since 2016 or 2017. And yeah, you're right. It starts off with a par 5. The opening 9 holes, you go a really good par 5 to start you off, and then a highly rated par 4 that goes about 420, and then a really neat little par 3, and then it jumps right back into a par 5. And then one of the longest and toughest holes on the course is a par 4 5th hole with a big lurking tree with gumption, I'll call that, right about 30 yards from the green setup, and then you jump into a shorter, fun par 4. The golf course itself is impeccable, and once you play the front, and it's It's a little bit more open. Fairways are forgiving. The green complexes are really difficult and large. But then when you get to the back, when you get to 13, 14, 15, I've had many, many friends come and they're like, wow, we just walked into Northern Michigan. So it's really unique golf course, always well maintained. Like I mentioned, the greens are big, but if the members don't see the greens rolling at 12s, they're sour. I've never, we all have our group of guys that play their own clubs, or whether it's public or private, and they play them all the time. That's their home course, and all they do is beef about their own greens. And I tell you what, the first time I joined Prestwick Village and I'm playing it, I'm like, these greens are fantastic. Sure enough, the members that have been there for 10 or 20 years, they're like, these greens are slow. We got to get them sped up. So, I mean, that's the strength of the club, is the big greens and very fast greens. And so that's a big challenge, and puts a lot of emphasis on your putting and your short game to get that ball in the hole.
Speaking of greens and practicing your putting, you've got a heck of a green in your backyard from your friends over at Celebrity Greens, rolling somewhere in a 12 and a half, typically on the stip. Talk about what you've got in your backyard.
Well, I've got Weston Weber was originally with Southwest, and when I was in Arizona, I had Southwest do my putting green back then, and then he sold the company, Weston did, and then he was in a non-compete for a little while, so he started Celebrity Greens, and so he didn't have anybody in Michigan representing Celebrity Greens, so I was going to a couple of different companies, and they were good, but I just remembered what it was like having those greens back in Arizona. And so I called Weston and I said, listen, is there any chance you can send somebody here? And sure enough, Weston flew up himself, and he brought in a couple of guys from North Carolina. And it was the greatest experience. And we ended up getting a guy here. His name's Jason Kronk. He's a real good college player, and I play with him at our club, and he owns a landscaping company. And I said, listen, Jason, just come and watch the way this guy does greens. Yeah, and just so as it turns out, Jason brought his whole crew, his landscaping crew, and it was kind of like a university lesson, is what I found. Weston knows what he wants, how he's going to do it, and as it turns out, Jason Kronk, who now has the Michigan side, Michigan Turf, Pro Turf, and he does it for Celebrity Greens, including Dylan Larkin, the Detroit Red Wing star centerman. He's done his backyard. He's done Brian Savage's, that former NHL player that now lives in Michigan. And so anyway, this Jason, my buddy, ended up being the Rookie of the Year for Celebrity Greens, and he's knocking out of the park here in Michigan. So I'm really delighted, because I'm right on the water, and it's so fun to watch boats go by and buddies go by, and I'm putting and chipping. And right now I replaced all my flags, and I've got all American flags to celebrate the 4th of July this upcoming weekend. And people honk their horns, and some of my buddies will drop by and we'll play a little money game and start putting and chipping. And so incredible job. I'll post some pictures after we're done. I think I posted one this afternoon before I went and played, just to say I'm getting ready for your show. And so I'll try to throw a couple more out there for anybody that's interested in Celebrity Greens or any other synthetic company. They're all really, really good. I just put Celebrity Greens into a real high echelon for me, just because of my friendship with Weston and a lot of the guys that have had it done.
Switching gears just slightly, Panger, as you shared with us over the years, you're a Miura golf ambassador. And Katsuhiro Miura, unfortunately, the founder of the company, passed away a couple of months ago. I was curious, did you ever get an opportunity to spend some time with him?
I never did. And it's a shame, too, because Bill Hollowady, who's my longtime friend, that is the COO of Miura, and he's a Canadian guy that I met in 2007 in Vancouver at an outing, and we've been friends ever since. And I've been with Miura ever since that time. The first time I met Bill, and I said to him many times, I said, "Is there any chance that I can get to Japan? Is there any chance I can meet the family? Is there any chance I can go there?" Just like what who was it?
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. I was going to say Rose, but it was Adam Scott, who's got the beautiful AS blades that are collector's items now from Miura. But I'm like, and then sure enough, this happened. Their hearts were broken, Chris. I mean, I know Bill personally was heartbroken for, and still is. The friendships, the relationships, the quality of work that the Miura puts into their clubs is outstanding. I mean, you could see why they were top swordsmen, and sword makers, back in the early 1900s, and how they turned to forge blades like they did. So, again, if anybody wants to try Miura's, it's easy. Go to Miura.com and give it a go there. And tell you what, if you want to go, you can go to Panger 25%, and you'll get a nice little discount right there for your Miura fan.
For the folks that aren't as familiar as you are with the Miura brand, and you talked about the quality a moment ago, I mean, these clubs are handcrafted like no other clubs out there on the market. Talk about what makes them so special.
Well, I think exactly what you just said is that, so many great golfers in the history of the game, I'm going to throw some names out, but including Tiger, and, Freddie Couples was the first guy that I ever played with that I said to him, he was using another company's. And I said, boy, those don't look like that company's irons. And he said, well, actually, and this was 3 weeks before I met Bill Hallwadi in Vancouver, the CEO of Miura. And he said, actually, Miura makes all my blades, and we stamp whatever company I'm using, whether it be Bridgestone at the time or whatever company. And so that was the first I knew about the quality of Miura and how players, of that caliber used Miura's clubs and had, their company stamped, including Tiger early on. So, that says it all right there. Hand forged from Japan, and just the softness, just the feel, just the fact that the ball comes off there, and you can feel how pure it is. And even on the miss hits, everybody goes, they might be a little smaller, so the miss hits are going to be, a little off kilter. You're going to feel it in your elbows. Or no, you're not going to feel it in your elbows. You're going to feel that it's a missed shot, but you're going to feel the greatness of a really good shot. And so I've had every single model, like from the MC 501s to the MB blades to the smaller blades. In fact, my son Tyler still uses the baby blades. They're very, very, very small. And the 201s, I've used them all, and I just love them all. They're just unbelievable blades, and the feeling and the forgiveness and the uniqueness of them too. You go around, and guys at our club will say, "Hey, Panger, I just got a set of the MC 501s," or and you're like, "Oh, you got the 501s? Let me take a look at them." And there's a little bit of a pride that you have with them. So anyway, if you haven't tried them and you have a chance to, just go on out there. There's so many companies like Club Champion, they have them, but just ask around and see. I know Carl's is such a big distributor right here in Michigan, one of the largest in the world. And you go there and they've got sets of them. They can put something together for you real quick to go take a look at them. But it's the feel, it's the forged, it's the look, and really it's the purity of them. I think that anybody that uses them just falls in love with them.
Panger, let's talk about some of the places that you have gone to play golf. I know we've talked in the past about your travels over to Europe and over to England, Ireland, Scotland. Talk about some of the places that you've played most recently. Well,
you're right. I have been lucky enough to go to Ireland and Scotland. We've got a large group of guys. I've gone many times with John Butchergrass of ESPN, and Ray Ferraro has been a longtime friend of mine, and we have some managers in the NHL that do an unbelievable job of organizing it, and then friends along the way. But a lot of times what we do, and this was just a couple of years ago, they're going again this summer. It's a big expanded trip, and I'm not going to go on it because I'm going to be playing in this pro event up in Mississippi with Danny Quinn and a whole bunch of guys, like I mentioned. But it's the trip of a lifetime, because you fly into Ireland, you play Royal County Down. Our group doesn't like to play a great golf course once. They like to play it for 54 holes. So put this in perspective. We'll go for 14 days and we'll play Royal County Down and play 36-36. And then we'll pop over to Royal Portrush, and then we'll play 36-36. And then we'll play Port Stewart and play, whether it's 18 or we might play 36, and then hop on a ferry and head to Turnberry and play the Elsa course and go, honest to goodness, it's kind of sick, isn't it, the way I say it? It's like, okay, we'll get there, so we'll only play 18, and the guys will be grumpy and they'll be wondering why we're not playing 36, and then we play 18. Then the next morning it's like a 36 hole marathon, and then the next morning we'll play 18, all to the same course, Turnberry, and then we'll hop on up to Royal Dornoch. And if anybody if you've been to Scotland and you haven't been to Royal Dornoch, all the guys told me that it was a fairy tale area. It's a place where Donald Ross was an assistant pro. That's how we learned the green complexes. And I said, yeah. I gave it one of those, I've been to a lot of good courses. And I got up there and it was as good as they said. So Royal Dornoch, unbelievable. So, but, over the years, playing the great courses of St. Andrews and Muirfield, I've even gone up to Cruden Bay. Have you ever been up there?
No.
Way up north. Cruden Bay, Royal Aberdeen. Those are good efforts to get up there and play. And they're unreal. Just to experience some of the ones that maybe are off the beaten trail a little bit, but to go play them, because it might only happen once that you actually say, okay, let's go do it. And I remember it was about 2005, and I had a group of 8 guys, including Steve Eisman that you had mentioned. We had surprised him, I think, for his 40th birthday. And I said, listen, Steve, we got to go up to Cruden Bay. By the time we got on the bus, we played 36 before. Guys were tired. And I said, we got to go there. We got on the bus. We got up there, left at 6 a.m, played Cruden Bay. And you know what? We left it and guys were like, thank goodness we did that. And then we stopped on the way back and played Royal Aberdeen, which is an incredible golf course. It might be one of my quiet favorites. And so then we played that on the way back. But I would just recommend going and playing it, whatever is out there, that it doesn't have to be the big giants all the time. There's so many great little courses that the members take such pride in. Like North Berwick would be a great example of an unbelievable golf course. I would go there and you know what, if you can't find me in a few years, go hunting somewhere in Scotland. I might be just there hiding out and playing golf. I might put a mullet on and some fake teeth. And guys that know me aren't surprised that I just said that, because I've done that on occasion.
You mentioned Royal Portrush amongst all of that. Obviously, we've got the Open Championship coming up there in a couple of weeks. What was it like playing there? That
is an unbelievable golf course. I played it years and years ago, so I think I'm not sure. I go back to, let's say it was 11 or 12, 2011 or 2012, and I was disappointed with how the course ended. I was like 17 and 18 are just disappointing endings. And all our guys agreed. We got 18 guys or something. We get on the bus going back to the hotel after, and I'm like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, I love the golf course, but I hated the ending. Well, sure enough, they did the renovation. They added an 8th hole, I think. They put in a par 5 from the other course, and it blends in beautifully. And then they redid 17 and 18, and I got to tell you, unbelievable. Like it goes right to the top of the charts. Royal County Down for me is number 1 there, but man, that is not far off. And many people that we play with, they think that Royal Portrush is clearly number 1 if you're playing those two. I just happen to have an affinity for Royal County Down and the way that golf course is. And even though some people don't like the blind shots and the blind drives, but going back to Portrush, it's an incredible experience. The hospitality is phenomenal right from the first tee, the way it's set up. There's a range there, which a lot of courses don't have, including Royal County Down. So, you're on a long trip and you don't hit many balls. You just get to the tee and here we go again, 30-mile-an-hour wind. Let's go bang them around. But there they do have an excellent facility. And so, high recommendation for Royal Portrush for sure.
So tell me more about Royal County Down, because it is listed number 1 on a lot of lists out there saying it's the best golf course on the planet. Tell me about why.
Well, I think number 1, you get to Slieve Donard. If you stay right there at Slieve Donard, it's incredible. It's right there. You've got the ocean, obviously, or should I say ocean? Whatever the big Irish Sea or whatever it might be right there. And then you're in a spot that reeks of Royal, like it's like, okay, you go to the putting and chipping area, you go to the first tee, the waves are coming off the right, the wind's coming off the right, big gorge, big hill on the left, and you're in it right away. It's a par 5 and you think, this is an easy par. It's not. And then what impresses me about Royal County Down is the precision of the shots that you have to make. There's a par 3 that I believe is 126 or 127, I think it is. It's 125 yards, 128 yards. And some of the guys that played in the Irish Open said this is the shortest par 5 I've ever played. I mean, you make a 4, you're happy. Half the time you're walking off with a 5, and you're like, what just happened? It's 128 yards, and people go, oh, it's tough, it's gimmicky. No, it's a precise golf course, and the hole number 9, when you hit your tee shot and you can't really see what's down below, and then you get down and you see the landscape behind it, it's just magnificent. It's just an unbelievable golf course. So for it to be ranked higher than Royal Portrush, I'm sure many locals would disagree, or many would absolutely agree. I'm just saying that me personally, I put Royal County down just slightly ahead of Royal Portrush.
You were at Royal Troon back in 1997 when Justin Leonard won the Open there. He'd come from 5 strokes back in the final
round. How do you
round.
get that information? That's amazing.
I know things.
You are something.
So tell me about what your experience was like there, watching Justin Leonard bring home the claret jug at Royal Troon.
You're not going to say anything about me taking the tee marker from the first hole before they even started, are you?
No, but please tell me that story.
Okay. Because I still have it. It's on my little synthetic tee here in the back. I got one from Turnberry and one from Royal Troon, and the thing is, that was our first experience. There was 4 of us. A guy named Bob Moran, who his family was real big in Michigan, Art Moran and Moran Pontiac. So anybody from Michigan would know that family. And Alan Trammell, the great baseball player from the Tigers.
Yeah.
And Steve and myself. And I think it was a celebration of Steve's 1,000th game. And so we had this all set up, and Steve would often say, I don't want to I'm not going to Scotland until I win the Stanley Cup. And this was 1997, February, when we surprised him with this. And he hadn't won the cup yet. And it was his big thing. Like, I'm not going there until we win the cup. And so we kind of did this whole surprise, and here's where we're going to go. And sure enough, they won the Stanley Cup in 97. So it made the trip even that much better. But we're standing there on the first tee, and where all the stands are put up, and we're just looking around, and players are starting to kind of come in, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is the first time any of us have ever experienced the Open Championship and seen the stands and Royal Troon. And obviously that time we never got to play it. We did play it 5 years later, and it was really an incredible golf course. But just being there and seeing the excitement, and you know what it is about, this it's the Scots, or the way it is at the Open Championship, but just the total respect and the total honor. It's like, oh my goodness, it's something special to go there and experience it, because our golf is a little different. And I'm not saying that they take it any more seriously or they're more gentlemanly, but there's something about the way they are there that everybody should have to experience. And especially when you get on the greens, Chris, because if you're slow on the greens, which they think, Americans slow on the, they just make fun of how slow North Americans are on the greens. They're like, would you putt the ball in? Why does everybody mark the ball? There they get up, they step up, they putt the ball. They don't mark the ball all over the place. So they do make fun of us in how long and how long it takes for us to read it and to get the caddies in and to go through all the routines that we go through naturally here in the United States or in Canada or North America on the putting green.
All right, but you got to tell me, how did you get away with getting a tee marker like that? I guess can't imagine you don't put one of those things in your back pocket and walk around all day.
You find the greenskeeper, and they're kind people, and you pay them. You pay them some pounds, and that's what I did with the Turnberry one, and the Troon one was a bit of a gift. I'll say that, and they're very generous people. So, but I've had them for this long, and now that I've got an area to put them, it makes for a great area for my little tee shot chipping area here in the backyard.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to talk a little hockey before I let you go. And let's start off with the team at the top, the Florida Panthers. They don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. For a minute, I thought maybe Toronto might get him in the conference playoffs, and then they dropped the puck to start the second period in Game 7, and it was all over.
Yes,
But
it was.
they've gone, obviously, to the last 3 Stanley Cup Finals and won 2 of them over Edmonton, oh, by the way. Your thoughts, what is it going to take for Edmonton or anybody else to overtake these guys?
It's going to take a lot. And, it's going to take some luck because they are a well-oiled machine. There's one thing to go to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup Finals. It's another thing to go to training camp every year following the Stanley Cup Finals and showing up in better shape than you were the year before. I have found that incredible to listen to the players talk about the standard that they have set individually and the competition that they have to go to training camp and to be in better shape. Can you imagine? Like, just go through this in your mind for a second. The first year they lose in 5 to Vegas. They're all banged up. It's the first time they've ever been to the final. They beat Boston in Game 7. They had a heck of a run. And then they show up the next year in camp in better shape than the previous year. Then they win the Stanley Cup. They show up in camp in better shape than the previous year, and they'll do it again this year. So what makes me afraid of the Florida Panthers, if I'm anybody else in the league? It's their desire and their commitment to continue to play the way they're playing. And so they've got obviously keeping Ekblad and keeping Marchand and keeping Sam Bennett, having an all-world goaltender, tells me that they're not going away anytime soon. So that's just the facts. But again, the Tampa Bay Lightning were on a roll. And I remember when they played Columbus, what year it was, I'm not sure. And they were steamrolling everybody. And bang, they got thumped 4 straight. Bobrovsky was the goalie for Columbus. Like, you don't know what's ahead of you. But what I will say is the team that's going to beat the Florida Panthers better be ready for a war. And if you knock them off, congrats to you. And that'll open the door for everybody else.
Panger, the U.S. won the IIHF World Championship back in late May for the first time in 92 years. Tage Thompson scoring the gold medal clincher. Can a combination of that team plus the team that we saw the U.S. put out there for the 4 Nations Challenge, can they finally get themselves over the Canadian hurdle as we look ahead to the Winter Olympics in February? Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's as wide open as you can get it. And showing no signs of disrespect to like Sweden and Czech and the Finns and how it works out with the Russians. But I mean, listen, the Olympics are something else, because the lights are bright. Many times it's one mistake and it's in your net and it's over. The 1-game elimination is totally stressful. And that's why all these countries pick players that have been there before. You hardly see a guy that hasn't been under the shining lights before because you don't know how they're going to react. You can't afford to have too many guys that have never been there before because they might shut down. They might choke. That's just the facts because they've never been there before. They never experienced it before. So, but the way that the U.S., played in the 4 Nations, and I was lucky enough to do just 1 game for TNT. I think I did I did Canada-Sweden to open it up in Montreal. But it was just, there was a hunger, there was a desire, there was a passion. There was you're not going to beat us up. We're going to be, I like the whole thing. I like what it brought to the game of hockey and the intensity. And it showed a lot of people that the Americans aren't just a bunch of superstars from a whole bunch of different states. Unlike Canada, that has always played hard for the leaf on the front. I always wondered if the Americans were playing for the, being an American or what's on their back. And I think what we're finding out is the American players are playing for the front, not for their names on the back. And I love that because that's what Canada has done. That's what Sweden has done. That's what the Finns have done. That's what you have to do to be successful. So yes, can the Americans win their first gold since 1980 in the Olympics? Yeah, absolutely they can. I wouldn't be afraid to say that at any point. And I think the Olympics are going to be great. You said before, Chris, about the Olympics. As of this point, I'm not doing the Olympics. Oh.
So it's
who do we got to call?
It's Ghostbusters. It's an NBC product, and so I'm sure they've got their guys that they've had before or previously. And it's funny that you say that because you said it earlier, and I do. I love the Olympics. I love that I was there in '98. I was there in 2002 and 2010, and it was wonderful. And now, you know what I like? I mean, if somebody asked, it'd be, wow, what a thrill. But I like sitting back and watching it too. I like enjoying it, and I'll be somewhere playing a little golf, somewhere warm, and I'll be able to enjoy the Olympics and watch it. So, but it's going to be something else. I'm really excited about it.
Panger, one more before I let you go, and you mentioned this just briefly earlier on, but your son and your nephew are both really good players. Update us on them.
Yeah, my son Tyler was he was a really good player. He went and played at St. Peter's College, and luckily in his life he ended up marrying a girl from Jersey, and they've got 3 beautiful young daughters that are under the age of 5. I've got 6 granddaughters, they're all girls under the age of 5.5 right now. So, but Tyler doesn't play as much anymore. He was at a place called Raritan Valley in New Jersey, and he was an assistant pro for a period of time. He was at Glen Echo in St. Louis as an assistant pro for a period of time. But I the life of an assistant pro, how many hours they have to dig in, and it was just a little much for him having young kids. So he's enjoying a little bit of golf. Doesn't play as much as he'd like to play, but anytime he plays, the kid can just pick up a stick and just play. He's a great kid. He loves to play. He's got great short game, and so my nephew Jake is also a good player. He's been competing in Canada as well. He went to Utah Valley State University and played there collegiately. I was really lucky. I was able to caddy for him in the U.S. Junior Am in Tennessee, and it was so much fun. It was 100 degrees. He didn't make the cut, but what an experience that was. So so he's a really good player, Jake Bryson, and he's up in Ottawa, and he plays in a lot of Canadian events, and he's got some game to him. He's a lefty, a typical Canadian, good left-hander, influenced by the great Mike Weir.
Darren, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing, whether it's on your broadcast, it's online, it's on social media, and stay up to date with the things you're going to do this summer and the places you're going to be playing?
Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. I don't have a website. I'm at Panger40 on X, or formerly Twitter, and I'm on a little Instagram, but I don't post very much on Instagram. I like reading through that, but I'm the broadcaster for the Chicago Blackhawks on CHSN. I'm going into my 3rd year with Rick Balls, my play-by-play partner, and we're just having a blast. It's been great getting back to Chicago, and I live in downtown in River North, and then spend my summers here in Michigan. And so that's kind of it right now. And obviously, my work on TNT, man, I love that group. I got to tell you that being with the greatest of them all, with Wayne Gretzky during the playoffs, and playing golf with him in Edmonton and in Florida. And spending some time. Charles Barkley is the kindest human being in the world, and he spent some time with us. So I can't say enough about the family that we have at TNT. They're incredible people, and I think we do a phenomenal job for the game of hockey, and I know everybody cares about it. So I'll be and I've got another year left on that deal, and hopefully I can extend that and continue on for another couple of years.
I hope so.
I got lots
too.
left in me, Chris.
Yes,
lots
you
left
do.
in me.
Yes, you do. Panger, it's always a huge thrill to get to spend some time with you and having you as part of the show. It's something I look forward to every summer when you're done broadcasting the game of hockey. I hope we get this privilege of catching up with you again before too long.
Chris, that sounds great, and thank you for being who you are, and take care of that ankle of yours as well.
Get her
ready. We'll see you on the course.
All right. Take care, Panger. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
You got it. You too. Take care.
Yeah. That is the great Darren Pang, folks. At Panger40 is where you can find him on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling that thing these days. And then obviously, tuning in to listening to him do the Blackhawk games and the games that are out there on TNT is something special. Look, he makes every game he is a part of infinitely better. And I'm so disappointed to hear that he's not going to be a part of the Olympic broadcast, because he just brings something extra special to a game that he is a part of. So hopefully Hopefully that may change, but I get that he might want to spend some time just watching the game and enjoying it himself from his living room or wherever he might tune into the games. But anyway, look, follow Darren Pang. He is optimistic, positive, upbeat, always bringing something special to whatever he's a part of, and that includes his social media pages. So hopefully, like I say, we get the privilege of having Panger back on the show again before the hockey seasons. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part one of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to the Confidence Doctor, Dr. Bob Winters, and Darren Pang for making the first part of this show so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you really enjoyed it and got something out of it. I mean, these guys are both fantastic individuals. I love them both. I can't thank them enough for all they have meant to me. Doc now 19 times. He's been a part of the show for a little over a year and a half now, each and every month. I can't thank him enough for that. And Panger, how great is Panger? That guy is just one of the great people you get to meet in this life. Now come back for part two. Now, Morny Botha is going to knock your socks off with all that he is doing with John Doe Sport. I'm telling you, folks, a sneaky way to go out there and put essentially a 15th club in your bag and to beat your buddies is to check out John Doe Sport online and try these glasses. I'm telling you, the science behind it is going to make a difference in how you see the golf course and how you're able to discern small breaks and the grain and all that stuff on the greens, and to be able to block out a lot of the stuff that is making it harder for us to judge the distance down to the golf ball and to see that clearly and to be able to make clean contact. I'm telling you, these glasses are going to make a difference, and your buddies are going to be wondering what the heck you did because they got those cheap drugstore sunglasses on that's messing up their perspective, and you're seeing things crystal clearly. Come back and check out part two with Morny Botha. Folks, again, I can't thank you enough for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.